UFC 308 just ended, and what a card. Absolutely lived up to the hype it had. There were a few fights that ended in injuries that it sucked that happened, but it's going to happen every once in a while, at least every other card. And one or two fights that weren't the most exciting, but they were technical. Really enjoyed this card. And yeah, let's not waste any more time. Let's get into it. Ilia Topuria versus Max Holloway. What a fight and what a finish. Man, am I glad that Ilia won. I like Max. I don't hate him by any means, but I did not want to see a fucking rock, paper, scissors type scenario at the top 3 in featherweight. Also, I just get tired of seeing someone become champ and then immediately lose or get one defense and then lose. I'd like to see Ilia keep going, and with how he performed, I don't see anyone in the top 10 beating him. Rounds 1 and 2 were decently close. I thought Holloway was doing a good job with his boxing combos, and he tried to hit his sneaky little spinning back kick, but couldn't find it. Ilia was too wary, and Ilia was setting up his calf kick. Debilitating shots he was landing, and Holloway's kind of known for being able to take a beating to his leg. Gaethje was landing a ton of them and dealing a lot of damage, but it never really seemed to affect Holloway. But like I said in my predictions, I think Ilia's more accurate and has better technique on his leg kicks. Punches too. He's just better than Gaethje all around. And I've seen when people were making predictions for this fight, people were very opposed to that idea. Like, it's just crazy that Ilia is a much better fighter than Gaethje, or potentially has more power because he has better technique. But he showed it tonight. Whoever is next for Ilia, man, do I feel bad for them. Now, I love Diego Lopez. As you can see, he's my profile picture. But he'll get KO'd in the first round. There's just no way he makes it out of the first round. He's way too defensively irresponsible. He'll get starched. I don't think he'll ever beat Ilia. It's just his style, his marauding style will get him KO'd. Even if he gets all the experience and beats all the top guys he needs to get a title shot, I don't think it's happening. There's no way, Volk ever readjusts to get back at it. I don't think. Neither Holloway. And then Movzar and Aljo, I think they'll get folded too. They don't have the power to put him away. He's a really good grappler. We saw that in round 1 when he took Holloway down with a well-timed takedown. Held him there. Didn't really get to do much with it. Holloway did get back up pretty fast. But I don't necessarily think he was aiming to do much with it. I think he was just trying to give him different looks, get him guessing. What a performance. I'm in awe of it. One of the best performances I've ever seen. Yeah, I mean, he ate some shots, but who doesn't against Holloway? And I think he was being kind of patient on purpose. You didn't really see him start winging and unloading until he knew he had Holloway kind of backed up, like he always does. It's one of the staples of his game, is working you up against the cage and then just letting go. And that's what happened. And you could see anytime he landed really clean, it hurt Holloway. Holloway was looking for that head kick that Jai Herbert landed. He did it a few times, but Ilia was too wary of it. Holloway did his best, but his best was not enough. I don't think anyone's best in featherweight is gonna fucking work, man. It's just, he's too good. I think he's gonna retire fucking GOAT. He potentially already is GOAT. I mean, that's the best wins anyone in featherweight has. A KO over Volk and a KO over Max. Unheard of. Besides, I guess, Islam has a KO over Volk, and if Max went back up to lightweight, I could potentially see that happening now if he ended up fighting for a title. That chin ain't ever going to get better. It's only going to get worse. And that was a pretty bad knockout. Amazing stuff for Ilia. Can't wait to see his next title defense, even if he smokes another fighter I like. Robert Whitaker versus Khamzat Chimaev. What a finish. What a performance. They exchanged, I think, 2 strikes before Khamzat shot a lightning-fast takedown on Rob, got him down and started chain wrestling. Rob did well for a couple of minutes of defending the rear naked and not letting Khamzat completely take his back or get mount. But eventually, Khamzat found the choke, went to cinch it in, didn't get under the chin, but got around the jaw, and when he started applying pressure, Whitaker immediately tapped. I'm assuming that Khamzat probably dislocated his jaw or something, because I've never seen someone tap that fast to a rear naked. Hats off to Whitaker for doing his best, though, but was not enough, not even near enough. Apparently, Usman off of the couch for 10 days is better than Prime Whitaker. But I'm excited to see, I'm assuming Hamzat fight for the belt. I think he puts up a good fight against Dricus. I think he's a better wrestler and submission artist than Dricus, but Dricus is a dog. Another thing I wanted to note is Hamzat looked fucking huge in there. He looked really big. Whitaker's never been the biggest middleweight, but damn, Hamzat was kind of mogging him. Great performance. I'm very excited to see where he goes next. Magomed Ankalaev versus Alexander Rakic. This wasn't the most exciting fight on the card. It was quite technical. Overall, decent. Round 1s and 2 were pretty close, but clear enough for Magomed, I thought. Rakic landed good leg kicks and attempted good head kicks, but almost all of them were blocked, at least partially. But Magomed, his left straight was money all night. He could probably have a 90% success rate with it. His boxing was just a step ahead, slicker, cleaner. And then round 3, halfway through, Rakic became a wrestler. All of a sudden, shot a takedown, couldn't get it, drove him up against the fence. And then for the last 2 minutes of round 3, it just became a clinch fest, and it was pretty uneventful. Overall, like I said, not bad, but I don't think either of these guys, obviously not Rakic, are beating Pereira. Magomed needed to show me more than that for me to have faith in him to beat Pereira. And it still, once again, proves the fallacy in people's thought of, if Magomed fights Pereira, he's just going to take him down instantly. He didn't attempt a fucking takedown once in this fight. He's not a wrestler. At most, he clinches with guys like he did in the 3rd round. And I do think he has a better chin. I don't know. Pereira took some fucking bombs off of Khalil. It'll be a good fight. I think this does solidify him being next for Pereira. I'm going to be taking Pereira in that fight. Although Magomed did good in this one. Just not enough to me to have real faith in him to beat Pereira. Lerone Murphy versus Dan Ige. Round 1, Dan Ige looked fucking great. He was beating Murphy to the shots. And at one point, Murphy overextended on a hook and got cracked by Dan Ige, easily stealing the round for himself. Ige did get cut by an elbow, which I didn't even see until the replays at the end of the fight. It was a sneaky little elbow. Murphy he recovered from the shot that he took, but was very hesitant, a little timid until about a minute and a half into round 2. And then he definitely got back into the fight. I gave round 2 to Murphy due to control time and just overall more damaging shots. And then round 3, very even round, definitely the swing round. If Murphy wouldn't have landed the shots and damage that he did in the last 20 seconds, I probably would have given it to Ige. I think both guys kind of made mistakes of Ige stayed on top too long and Murphy went for submissions instead of just getting top position or getting up off bottom. If he would have gotten up sooner or gotten top position, he definitely could have made it a definitive round rather than a really close round. Regardless, though, was a really good fight. Dan Ige has got a hell of a fucking chin as well as crazy power. Dude took some bombs from Murphy, some big knees, a few big straights. But yeah, Dan Ige, I have grown more respect for Dan Ige. I wish he was a bit more of a talker or an extrovert, I guess. He just doesn't. It's not that he's personalityless. He's just, I don't know. He doesn't put himself out there as much. I'm not asking for him to be a McGregor, but just give us some more because he's got such a fucking fun fighting style. He definitely is underrated. People think he's fucking boring and bad because he's not much of a talker, and I don't like that narrative. Shera Bullet versus Armen Petrosyan. This was a very back and forth fight up until the badass KO from Shera. In round 1, Armen landed a really good straight that rocked Shera, and then he followed up with some nice shots up against the cage, and it looked a little hairy for Shera in the start of round 1. Then he came back and it got a lot more even. There's also a lot of nut shots in this fight, very frequent. Armen was throwing inside and outside leg kicks, and they were hitting the nuts a lot, and Shera was landing side kicks to the lower torso on Armen, and they also ended up hitting his nuts a few times. But round one was really fucking close. You could give it either way, in my opinion, but knowing the judges, they scored it for Shera. Round two, though, still close, but at one point, Shera throws a spinning back fist that gets blocked, and then spins around with the other back fist and lands flush, TKO's Armen, walk-off fucking double spinning back fist, absolute ninja shit. This is what we were all expecting from Shera when he got in the UFC. I'm glad to see him finally doing crazy-ass shit like this. Really badass finish. Good fight. Ibo Aslan versus Rafael Sakara. Fucking hell, dude. I hate Mark Goddard. This is such a shitty fucking stoppage. Although Rafael was just getting battered up against the cage, he didn't go down. He didn't have, like, that's all I can really fucking say about it. He didn't go down. Like, goddamn, let guys get good finishes. Fuck me, man. Mark Goddard always has to ruin shit, take shit way too fucking personal. He's a fucking bitch. Regardless, I picked Ibo Aslan, so not mad about that. Just, I can't stand Mark Goddard. And I'd said that Rafael Sakara has only beaten bums, and that's absolutely true. His opponent's combined record outside of Ibo Aslan was like 9-19. And on the first exchange, Rafael threw a leg kick. Ibo threw a left hook, rocked him a little bit, and then he just stumbled up against the cage, and Ibo just threw punch after punch, landed 18 punches. None of them were answered back. Some of them were blocked, but just got battered up against the cage. Couldn't. I mean, he was defending himself, but he couldn't retaliate, return any shots. And so yeah, Mark Goddard prematurely called the fight because he's a bitch. Jeff Neal versus RDA. This fight was alright while it lasted, which was not very long at all. Tell Jeff Neal was a step ahead in the boxing. He was just too slick, too fast, landing good combos. First really clean combo he landed, knocked RDA down. He followed up a little bit with some ground and pound, but then let him back up. And then when they returned to the feet, one of the next combos and exchanges they had, RDA's knee just blew out. Sucks, but he is getting up there in age and has a lot of miles on his career. Yeah, shitty ending to the fight, but it was alright for what it was, the very short time it lasted. Mateusz Rebecky versus Magomedov Oralby. This shit was fucking awesome. The incarnation of Just Bleed. A back and forth fight after round one at least. And just a complete bloody mess. Round one, Mateusz Rebecky was kind of a step ahead, a little quicker to the punch, and found his range faster than Magomedov did. Halfway through it, he landed a big left hook, which seemed to break or bust up the orbital on Oralby. So I gave round one to Rebecky. After that, in round two, Magomedov was shooting for a takedown, and they clashed heads, and it cut Rebecky's right eye pretty bad. It was leaking like a stuck pig after that. And they clashed their heads like 3 or 4 times throughout this fight, and I think it was just the styles of both guys leading towards that. None of it was intentional. It's just Rebecky darting in and Magomedov's stance and head movement. But after Rebecky started bleeding in round two when they clashed heads off the takedown, Magomedov kind of took the lead in the second round. I gave the second round to him. And then the third was absolutely fucking nuts. Mateusz landed a big shot. I think it was another left hook, which stumbled Magomedov. He followed up and got him on the ground and just blew his wad through everything he had to try to finish Oralby. Couldn't get it. Both Magomedov's eyes started swelling up. His nose was busted up. And then after that, Rebecky was completely gassed, had nothing left. Looked like The Walking Dead out there. And so then Oralby started to reverse position in the grappling. tried to land some good ground and pound, but he was also so gassed. And it just ended up with both of them covered in blood, looking like they'd been in car crashes. An awesome fight. Either guy, honestly, could have won, and I wouldn't have been disappointed about it. I definitely thought Rebecky did win. If Orlby could have gotten off some ground and pound or a decent submission attempt after Mateus Rebecky blew his wad in round 3, he potentially could have made that round a draw or even won it for himself. But, like I said, awesome fight. Rebecky deserved the win. Both guys are built different, just absolute warriors. Potential, I don't know. There's some really good fights this year. I wouldn't say a certain for fight of the year, but it's a potential for it. Probably going to be fight of the night. I do record these right after the fight happens, and up to this point, easily the best fight on the card. Abus Magomedov versus Bruno Ferreira. This was a very measured first round. Both guys were trying to find their range before really engaging. Magomedov had a kick-heavy game to legs, body, and head, and he was landing a lot of them. He looked really good on the feet until round 2 when he got cracked by either like a jab or a hook. It was kind of hard to tell which one. It was a little too looping to be a straight and a little too straight to be a hook. Kind of just in between. Got caught with it. Then shoots for a takedown, like immediately off of getting rocked. Catches a little bit of a kick on the way down. And then after getting rocked, it completely changed the flow of this fight from almost entirely striking to a lot of grappling. And Magomedov was doing pretty damn good in the grappling. He landed half of his takedowns he shot. And Ferreira was, until the end in the third round before he got subbed, he was doing decent at scrambling out of bad positions and stuffing a few of the takedowns. But in the third round, Magomed shot a takedown, wrapped up the legs, jumped into mount, then locked in an arm triangle, and Ferreira tapped pretty quickly. A good win for Magomedov. Hell, it would have been a good win for either guys because they both needed it, even though they're on win streak, or they both were on win streaks. They both had some pretty nasty losses a while back. So, good win for Magomedov. Almost a comeback win from getting rocked in the second round. I gave the second round to Ferreira and the first round to Magomedov. Kennedy Nezachukwu versus Chris Barnett. At some point in this fight, whether it was when Chris Barnett jumped and did a Michigan before the fight, or after he threw a wheel kick and readjusted, he seemed to blow out his knee or injure his ankle, one of the two. And a short time into round 1, he just couldn't stand up on it anymore. Got pinned against the cage and was just getting teed off on by Kennedy. Chris came real close at one point with a wheel kick, his signature technique. But other than that, Kennedy was just landing teep after teep, and it just didn't look good for Chris. Sad loss for Chris Barnett, but it's kind of what I expected. Not necessarily him blowing out his knee, but I thought Kennedy would kind of be able to tee off on him at range. Farid Basharat versus Victor Hugo. This is a nice technical matchup here. Both guys had some diverse displays of striking, incorporating a lot of spinning attacks. Farid was throwing wheel kicks. Hugo was landing some nice spinning back elbows and back fist. I think also a spinning back kick. A lot of back attacks for Hugo, and was landing quite a few of them. I don't think Farid ended up landing his wheel kick that he was throwing, but it had really good technique on it. The grappling was also nice for what little it was of it, although I wish Farid could have done more, like ground and pound, or gotten a little closer to submission attempts. But the transitions and scrambles were nice to watch. Hugo even pulled out the old Imanari roll, got somewhat close to the first leg lock he tried, and then everyone after that didn't really get too close. And I'm not the biggest fan of leg locks, but I mean, I guess if you're really good at them and are able to pull off Imanaris and shit, might as well try it once or twice in the fight. But overall, like I said, a really nice, diverse, technical fight. Not the craziest on volume, but the shot selection was pretty nice. Ismael Narda versus Bruno Silva. This was a fucking shit fight. Bruno Silva looked worse than he ever has before. Only landed 38 strikes throughout the fight, and it went to decision. He just looked terrible, man. Even from the start of the fight, he couldn't find his range, was extremely hesitant on the feet, and Narda seemed switched on from the start. He was landing good, quick, snappy kicks to the body and the legs. I don't know. I'm trying to think of things to say about this fight. There's not much to say. Narda just kind of bullied him, held him up against the cage, took him down when he could, outstruck him on the feet. Bruno Silva had nothing for Ismael. Renat Fandino versus Carlos Leal. This was a bullshit decision. Everyone knows it. Even if Leal is on enough gear to kill a horse, robberies are always going to happen in fucking Abu Dhabi if a Muslim fighter is going to decision. We all know this. But still, what bullshit. Renat was significantly outlanded, failed 16 or 17 takedowns. I was just kind of getting bullied at points. Renat definitely needs to work on his technique and his pop and his punches. He looked quite sloppy at times. And on the other hand, Leal needs to work on his head movement and general striking defense. His takedown defense looked incredible. And the few times that Renat was able to get Carlos down, he could not hold him there. And so, against grapplers in welterweight, Leal could definitely pose a problem, although there's not that many grapplers in welterweight. But still, looked incredible on the ground and stuffing the takedowns. Just got to get some head movement and a little bit more cardio, although it was a pretty high pace. He was, like I said, he was throwing a lot. He significantly outlanded Renat. It was 148 strikes to 93. That's fucking ridiculous. And the 3 minutes of control time Renat racked up amounted to nothing. He didn't do anything with it. He couldn't keep him down. He just held him against the cage or pinned his legs against the cage. Bullshit decision, but a fun, scrappy fight to start the card off with.